Hey guys, how are you? And welcome. Today we're talking about how to protect and preserve your energy. Oh, and you know who is using my computer and adjusted sound, and somehow it's on auto, which I don't care for at all. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Okay, that's better. All right, good. That was driving me crazy. Oh, hey Heidi Brom. Hey Talar. Hey Faye. Welcome. How's your Wednesday going? Honestly, Monday was like the longest freaking day. I don't even know how Monday was so long. And then yesterday was like blink over. So I don't even know what day it is today. I mean, I know it's Wednesday, but it doesn't feel like Wednesday. Hey, Olivia, welcome. Buenos dias, señora. Heidi is feeling especial today. All right, got my handy notes. I'll tell you what, it's kind of short and sweet today. That doesn't mean the call will be. But my notes are. There we go. Hey, Courtney, welcome. No, I don't like that. That's in a weird place. I'm going to put it over here. My notes are like kind of in a weird place right now. There we go. Okay. Hey, Faye, welcome. All right. So you guys know what we're talking about today, right? How to protect. I'm going to show you 3 powerful ways to protect and preserve your energy. And when I talk about your energy, it's interesting because when you guys know, like I come up with the topic and then like later the talking points find me, right? So today it was in the car about 20 minutes ago. I'm driving, like, what am I? Oh yeah, okay, I gotta remember that. That's why it's so short. Because it was shortened. My talking points are so short because it was short enough for me to remember in the car on a 10-minute drive home. So hey Glenn, hey Debbie, welcome. Yeah, so I intended that we would talk about like your energy in terms of like your field of energy, right? But as a matter of fact, it also pertains to how much like get up and go you have, like how much energy you have to do the things that you want to do. It's all impacted by what I'm going to talk to you about today. Sound good? Yeah. All right, cool. So thanks to everyone who's here live with me. And if you are catching the replay, well, of course, if you're catching the replay, that would be through the Patreon group, right? Patreon.com/Amy Scott Grant. But if you are catching the replay, make sure that you tag me in your question or comment so that I see it, right? Okay, so why are we having this conversation today? Well, because if you hadn't noticed, like shizzle is ramping up, right? Things are starting to go faster, and I know you guys, you're just gonna end up like teetering on the brink of burnout again, right? So this is why we got to talk about this. So protecting and preserving your energy. Now, this is not, to be clear, this is not about putting up protection fields, because I think we all know how I feel about that, right? No, this is, and what my thoughts are about that. Hey, Marta, welcome. Glad to see you here. No, so it's not about putting up protection mechanisms. It's more about like protecting yourself, like managing your energy, let's say. Okay. So we do this to avoid burnout, overwhelm, to have more energy to do the stuff that you actually want to do or the stuff that you want to get done, right? There's, like you may want, like I know Cherry is always talking to us about, I'm going to get this organized, we get that clutter gone, right? Like those aren't necessarily things that she wants to do, but they are things that she wants done, right? I think we can relate to that, right? So you'll have more energy to get done what you want to get done. And when you are preserving and protecting your energy, then you feel happier and more satisfied and more productive. And life is just better, right? So all good things, good reasons. All right. So here we go. Courtney's like, hell yeah, I'm feeling the intensity ramping up. I know, right? It totally is. Oh my gosh. I feel like, yeah. I have to say, when Terry Robnett and I went to Sedona recently, that was like the end of May, which, you guys, I have said was not at all what I expected, but exactly what I needed. And we both had like time to kind of process, like, you know, the thoughts and like epiphanies that happened while we were there and the ones that didn't happen that we were expecting to happen and whatever. And then there was another, I feel like I went through another big shift with this recent retreat that I held for some of my clients here in Colorado. And yeah, that was kind of interesting too, because there was this huge buildup to retreat, right? There was so much energy building. And hey, Crystal. And I knew that we were working on big stuff because everybody started showing up with resistance right before retreat. And even like the weather changed, everything was like, wow. I'm like, I don't know what we're doing, but it's huge. It's huge. It's huge. It's huge. And it wasn't even like when it was happening, it wasn't even so much like, oh my God, this is the huge thing. It was just like, whew. And since then, I don't know about you guys, but wow. I mean, this is just in the last week or two. The way that I move through time and space has changed dramatically. It's really interesting, but maybe we talk about that another time because today is really about protecting and preserving your energy, right? But Courtney's right. Yeah, like we need it. Crystal's like, hey, Ramona. I thought you were on vacation again. That girl has quite the life, I tell you. All right. So here's number one. Right? Number one, for protecting and preserving your energy, what I recommend is know your edges. Okay? Here's what I mean by that. See, I can't talk today. Know your edges. That's number one. What does that mean? That means, well, it's, people say things like know your limitations, but that's a limited mindset that would even have us say that, right? Like, let's not focus on our limitations. But I do believe that we have edges, and if you're a person that could see auras, you probably get a more visual representation than most of us, right? Because you can literally see the edges of people's energy, like how far out, or if somebody's really withdrawn, just how big or small their field of energy is. But here's what I mean by knowing your edges. It's about knowing, again, I don't want to use words that we might have used classically or historically, like limitations, boundaries, tolerances. No, think of them like your edges. Like, here's an example. Okay, I know about how much time I can spend in a group of people. Right? So if it's like a party, I feel like I started out life as an extrovert and then I just like worked my way over to the introvert side. I know you find that surprising, right? Most people do. They're like, there's no way she's an introvert. I totally am. I get really tired if I'm around a lot of people for a long period of time. I get much more energized by being alone. And I really have to have a balance of time alone and time spent with other people. Right. And if you hadn't noticed, like my kids and my husband are people. So I spend a lot of time with them. Then when there's more people, it's like a lot of people happening here. Right. A lot of that going on. So, again, this is why I don't do sessions in person too. I'm much more energized when I'm alone. That's where I get my energy in order to do lives like this and to get on the phone and like to write and to do all the things I love to do, right? But I think when I started writing, I became more of an introvert. If I hadn't been aware of my edges, I really could have burned out, right? Because I used to really be an extrovert and I got so energized. I hated being alone. I was bored alone. I wanted to be out and around people and seeing things, doing things, and very, very social, right? And so if I hadn't been aware of my own edges, I wouldn't have even noticed that shift from extrovert to introvert, okay? And now what I mean by knowing my edges is like, I know, let's say, for example, I'm going to a party on Saturday night. Ain't no way in hell I'm going to Costco on Saturday. I'm not going to the grocery. I'm not going to Costco. I'm not going to Target. I'm definitely not going to Walmart. Like, I'm going to stay alone and like have some quiet time so that I feel charged and I have enough energy to like have fun and be fun and go out and socialize and go to a party, right? And I also know like what you might even call it a threshold or a tolerance. Again, these are sort of limiting words. That's why I like edges. Know your edges, right? So I know about how long I can be around other people before I start getting agitated. That agitation is not, see, sometimes we are too hard on ourselves. A lot of times we're too hard on ourselves and we think, why am I so irritable? I shouldn't be this way. It's a great party. These people are really fun, but it's because you don't know your edges, right? And like alcohol can affect edges. If you drink, it's like, that's going to affect your edges differently than if you don't drink, right? So, but if you know your edges, then you kind of know where that's at. Like if you know you could spend about 2 hours with other people before you're like tired, well, then you're probably not going to want to go at the very beginning of the party, or you're probably not going to plan a lot of other draining things that day before you go to the party. Okay. So it's not just about, like Crystal says, I know I can only be around my mother-in-law for 5 minutes. Preach it. Oh my God. Don't get me started because Andy might be popping in and watching, but he knows. I got some yummy homemade iced tea here, which is already melted because it's hot as balls today. Anyway, so Crystal knows her edges with her mother-in-law, right? And those are like really tight edges, short edges, right? I also, look, there's other things. I'm going to throw out like 5 real quick examples here. There's certain people, right, that you can only be around, just like Crystal said, that you can only be around for a certain amount of time before it's affecting you, right? Like you're feeling it. And these could be people that rub you the wrong way. They could be people that you have past life issues with. They could be toxic people. They could be really negative people, whatever. So there's different reasons why we can't. They could be really, really hyper people. And if you're an introvert, you're like, wow, could you just like bring it down, right? So there's people. So it's about knowing your edges with certain people. It's about knowing your edges with people in general, like I was talking about. Like I know Roxanne talks about it in the Lightworkers Guide to Getting Started. She talks about how she doesn't go to big box stores. She doesn't go to Costco and Sam's and Walmart. She like sends her husband out. You going to the store? Could you just pick up a couple things? Passes list of 47 items, right? But she knows that being in a crowded store that doesn't have windows and has a lot of stuff and people in it it affects her energy as an empath, right? A lot of empaths feel this way. So there's like people in general, right? There's situations where it's really helpful to know your edges. I know grown, mature people who have a very low tolerance for swearing. And I don't mean they're super religious or anything like that. I mean, it actually it's upsetting to them. It affects them if they hear the F-bomb or whatever. Okay. And if you hadn't noticed, if you've ever talked to me in real life, it's like, I don't swear. I like to swear a lot, but I really don't drop the F-bomb a whole lot in front of other people. And almost never on these videos, right? Because I know that. Because I don't know, you could have your kids in the room and or your grandma or whatever. Or you could be one of these people that's kind of affected by the F-bomb, right? So if you know that about yourself, if you know that it wears on you, then you're going to, if you know your edges, it affects how you move through life, right? So you're probably not going to watch certain movies. You're not going to be like, ooh, let's get a good Eddie Murphy movie off Netflix. That sounds great. If you're sensitive to F-bomb, there's certain actors, movies, genres, directors, writers that you're going to stay away from, right? And maybe violence on TV. That's something, violence, not just on TV, movies, books, all of that stuff can really impact an empath. So, and it impacts empaths differently. So say that 3 times fast. Impacts empaths differently. So this is why it's important to know your edges. It doesn't matter how other people feel about things, right? Knowing my edges is what showed me that it was time to stop drinking completely and not that I ever really, I mean, when I lived in New Orleans, so people in New Orleans are like, oh, do you drink? Oh, just socially. That means like 3 or 4 drinks a day. If you live in New Orleans, just so you know, they have like a different definition of social drinker than like anywhere else in the country. So, but even like, I mean, I barely ever drank after I moved to Colorado. And then one day it was just like, you're done. You're done. Because I knew it was like, my body was just like, no, can't do it anymore. And if I wasn't aware of my edges, I would have totally missed those signals. Right. And it would have been harder to, hey, Adina, it would have been harder to, hey, Nia, to walk away from that too. Right? All right, I said I was going to give you 5 examples. Oh, know your edges like with focus. It's good to know your edges with focus because I have that weird thing in human design where I can like block out the entire world and just drop into something and put all of my energy and focus into it. And Lord help you if you interrupt me while I'm doing that, right? How else can I write a book in 4 days? It's because I have that weird thing, right? So I know my edges. Don't you dare interrupt me. That's what I'm saying. So like if I'm in one of those focus zones, I can set boundaries and manage my edges because I know them. If I know I'm going to be writing, there will be a sign on my door that says, shh, mommy's writing. And the kids know and Andy knows, like, don't call me, don't text me, don't knock on the door, right? Go find daddy. Mommy's unreachable right now. Even though I'm right here in my office and the door isn't even wood, it's glass, right? It's like that rainwater glass look. So, yeah, so knowing your edges around focus, knowing your edges around work, right? And this could have a lot to do with your human design. If you're a generator or manifesting generator, you are built to approach work differently than someone who is a projector or a pure manifester. Okay. And so again, by having that knowledge, you can actually know your edges, right? So Debbie's like, all right, you got it? All right. So that's number 1 is knowing your edges. And because how can you protect your energy? How can you preserve your energy if you don't know where those edges are? Right? I get it. We're all infinite beings, but you don't have infinite energy available to you every single day. You just don't, because that's not how you're built. If you did, you'd never have to sleep. People would not become psychotic after staying awake for 5 days or whatever it is. Like, no, you need sleep. You need rest, right? So we're built to work in a certain way, and we're not all built to approach life in the same way. So again, that's the importance of knowing your edges and being in touch with that. Just like you can know your physical edges too, right? Like you probably, I mean, if you're in touch with your body, you know how much sleep you can get by on. That may not be optimal, but you know what your minimum sort of threshold is, like where you get crabby and bitchy and can't focus if you get less than that, right? If you run or work out or whatever, you know, like I know how fast I can walk without having stretched before my calves will start burning, right? It's like, that's one of my edges that I just know. Okay. I know. Why wouldn't I stretch? I know. I don't know. I love to stretch, but I just don't a lot of times. I'm like, I'm going for a walk. That's the generator, right? I think I'll walk. Bam. Not like, oh, I think I'll stretch and then walk. This is not very generatory. All right. So that's knowing your edges. That's the importance of that, right? It helps you to protect and preserve your energy. And then number two is set and stick to boundaries. Did you not see that coming? I mean, come on. We talk about that in Lightworker's Guide. I talk about that in quite a few things, actually. But you know why I talk about it so much? Because you freaking need to hear it. You need to hear it. I need to. We all deserve to hear this, okay, about setting boundaries. Because the quickest way to zap your energy and assure that you have no time for you and you're doing and running for everybody else and feeling totally depleted is to not set or stick to boundaries. Now, this really is a 2-part thing, okay? Because, and you see how it builds on knowing your edges. Like you got to know your edges in order to know where to put the boundaries, in order to know where to say no, right? Courtney's like, hallelujah. So, for example, like the example I gave earlier, okay, if I know I'm probably good for like 2 to 3 hours at a party, I could go longer if it's super fun and I love the people, right? And I'm going to pay for it tomorrow. Meaning I'm going to be tired. I'm going to feel drained. My body is going to need extra rest to recover from going, on longer than like 3 hours at a party or dinner party or social gathering or game night or like whatever it is. Okay. So I know where to set those boundaries. For example, like I said earlier, if I know I'm going to a party, I'm not going to go to Costco. I mean, I don't like to go to those places on a Saturday anyway, but I definitely am not going to do it if I have a social event to attend that night, because I'll just like wipe myself out before, like energetically. Again, like physically, yeah, fine, whatever. But energetically, I'm just going to feel tapped if I do that. So I know to set those boundaries. So if Andy, my husband, who's a little ADD, kind of impulsive, is like, hey, let's run over to whatever, I got to be able to set that boundary and say, no, I really want to rest before we go to this party, or I want to read my book, or I'm going to write, or like I want some time alone before we go to this party tonight. Okay. It also means I may set boundaries in the form of, okay, what time do you want to go? Because I would like to be back home by like 10, or, should we take separate cars? Do you want to run me home? And then you can come back out, like that kind of thing. Like I'll make arrangements like that, right? Or I'll take the kids home and then you can go back if you want, hang out. Because Andy's definitely way on the side of extrovert, right? He needs to be around people or he gets a little cuckoo. But that's where he gets energized, is from being around other people. So it makes sense for him. But you can see how in a relationship, someone who needs to be alone and someone who needs to be around other people, like you're going to have to structure your life so that works. So you have to be like conscious about that. Debbie says, you've described my punishment completely. Your punishment? Oh my God, you're so funny. Okay. So set and stick to boundaries. That also means saying no, which I can tell you empaths don't like to do. I'm not saying we're all empaths, but a lot of us here in this group are, right? So saying no, thinking before you commit, that's something, I think I don't know about 1, 2, 3 clarity, but I know I talk about that in Pendulum Mojo, think before you commit, right? It's like, don't, people ask for help and you're saying yes before you even know what you're committing to. No, stop that. Don't do that. Right? Relax, think about, let me sleep on it. Can I get back with you tomorrow? Right? These are all perfectly acceptable responses. Like, okay, well, what did you have in mind? What all would be involved in that? What is it specifically that you're asking of from me? I use phrases like this all the time. If you've ever asked me for something or you've asked to collaborate or something with me, because these are the kinds of things I say. And it kind of drives my husband crazy because Andy will say, oh yeah, it's that like we're doing whatever. And I start asking questions and he's like, oh, I don't know. You can tell it by his face. He thinks I'm like raining on his parade, right? But I'm like, but you committed us, or you committed yourself and said, and I'll talk to Amy. I'm like, but I'm going to ask for details. Like I want to know exactly what I'm committing to before I commit, right? So and this is part of what helps me set and stick to boundaries. Now, I didn't get good at saying no overnight. It's definitely something I had to work at, right? Because a lot of us like to be people pleasers, right? We want to help people. When people go, hey, can I ask a favor? Of course. What do you need? It's like, that's our natural reaction, is to respond and say yes. And you know what? As a human race, people love to say yes. We much prefer to say yes rather than no, right? So it's something that we have to work at to get good at setting and maintaining boundaries. But if you don't do this, you can see how your energy can quickly get depleted and how you're not at all protecting the energy that you have. Like you're not protecting your edges. And how can you even set those boundaries if you don't know where your edges are? So that's why we're building this in order. Know your edges, set and stick to boundaries, okay? Number 3 is replenish. Now, I am frequently blown away by the number of people that just completely disregard this. They don't even give it a second thought, right? They do everything for everyone else. And when it comes to themselves, it sort of doesn't occur to them to replenish, or they've been giving. And so that we're down scraping the bottom of the barrel and there's nothing left for themselves, and it doesn't occur to them like stop and reload, like refill the barrel. So you know that expression, like how you do anything is how you do everything, right? So let me ask you, how do you do toilet paper? Like there's a lot of different ways to do toilet paper. Some people shop at Costco, shop at Sam's, they buy cases of toilet paper. Like they are toilet paper ready for Armageddon. You know, they have like a separate area of their basement or their attic that's like the TP corner, right? Like they feng shuied it. It's like really, I mean, some people have just absurd amounts of toilet paper. And you're like, oh, wow, that's a lot of toilet paper. Are you Mormon? No, just prepared, right? So that's on one end, right? Then there's people that completely run out of toilet paper. I don't mean like once, but often. Like, then they're using Kleenex, then they're out of Kleenex. They're now on to napkins, paper towels. Ooh, that is some wood that was not designed for the sensitive parts of your body, right? So, Courtney's like, oh God, you're not messing around with that question. TP is a serious issue. Am I right? Yes. Oh, we're not even going to get into like what brand and how many ply and like all the features you have to have about your toilet paper. I'm only talking about quantity. That's all we're talking about today, right? Because this is number 3 is replenish. So how do you, right? So there's this opposite end of the spectrum. There's people like looking around for scraps of, you know, paper and tissue and whatever, because they're totally out of toilet paper and they forgot to go to the damn store again. And then there's people that have like end of the world supply of toilet paper, right? So, and then there's everything in between. There's people that, you know, when they buy, you know, huge quantities and then they run out and then they buy more huge quantity. You know, there's all different ways to do it, right? But it is a thing. It's a staple that all of us have in common. Like we all buy toilet paper. We all have toilet paper, right? It's a thing that we all need. And it's a thing that we have to replenish, right? Oh my God. Courtney's like, I'm pretty sure over/under has ended marriages before, right? Luckily, Andy and I are on the same page with that. It's definitely over. It's always over. Why would you go under? No, it's over. It's always over. I don't want to have this conversation. Then Debbie says, somebody brings me mine. Got this one covered. Ha ha. All right. But you might notice how you feel about when you start getting low, right? Or how you like to have extra or whatever. So if that's toilet paper, literally something you use to wipe your ass and then flush, and you put that much thought, I mean, look, we got like a debate going here. Oh, you're just in time, Vicky. We're talking about toilet paper. Fantastic. So if toilet paper takes up that much space in your brain, right? Like this is a thing that we have to think about more so than milk or bread or electricity or like any other staple in your life. Why would we give that more credence than energy, than our own reserves, right? So, all right. This is what number 3 is all about, right? Is replenish. You got to replenish before you run out. No matter what your stance is on toilet paper, when it comes to your energy, I mean, because really, let's just think about this for a second, okay? If you run totally out of toilet paper, like I don't know about you guys, we have 3 bathrooms in my house, right? So if I run totally, what happens when you start getting low and you still haven't been to the grocery? Then you're like cannibalizing from other bathrooms in the house. And then next thing you know, everyone, like all the bathrooms have an empty roll and there's like, you know, 3 squares like draped over it, right? But still no one's gone to the store. And it's like, it causes more stress. And then you go to the store and you have to buy a lot and you have to come back and you have to replenish like every bathroom, right? As opposed to like, oh, the master's out. Oh, let me get, you know, a 6-pack from downstairs and replenish the master and like whatever. So when you run out, it takes way more energy to get everything back to normal, back to a comfortable level, right? And that's freaking toilet paper. We're talking about your energy reserves. We're talking about your field of energy and how much energy you have to do the things that you want to do. So how do you replenish your energy, right? Well, for starters, you don't wait till it runs out, right? Because then what happens? Then you're tired, you get sick, you get irritable, you have emotions that you don't even have the energy to process, right? It just causes a lot of frustration and aggravation. So you can keep your energy reserves up. Well, I'll throw out some examples, but it really comes down to what feels good to you, right? Because again, we're not all the same. We don't have the same edges. We don't have the same boundaries. We don't have the same comfort levels. So of course, we're not going to have the same identical ways of replenishing energy. So one way that I replenish energy is by being quiet with my thoughts. So I wouldn't really call that, Courtney's like, this is pretty much the most effective analogy I've ever heard. Toilet paper. I'm telling you. Yeah, for me, like just being alone with my thoughts. So I wouldn't really call that meditation because, you know, what most people associate meditation with is like taking away the thoughts and just having a still mind. And that may work great for you. You might love meditation. But for me, I actually love like just having permission to just think, right? So I have a futon in my office. I don't know if you guys see it. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it, but I have like a big old futon in my office, which, you know, because it's right next door to my bedroom. So God forbid I'd walk into the next room when I could just walk over there and lay down. But also I have this like super plush, the focus got weird. There we go. I have this like super plush Turkish rug. And sometimes I just lay down on that rug because it feels so good. It's so like plush, whatever, comfortable. So, but I just lay down and I just think for a while. And I'm telling you, sometimes 5 minutes is plenty. But I'm like, I just need to walk away from my computer and lie down, right? And Marta's like, it's hilarious, but so true. It makes me want to run and check all my bathrooms. You know you will after this. You know, if you're like using napkins and paper towels after this, you're totally going to think about this training. Be like, damn it. So, and that should be a good reminder, like, where else am I not replenishing, right? Yeah, so for me, just to be quiet. And sometimes I'll tell my kids, like, just shh. So right now, just being silent, I can hear birds chirping outside. I can hear the air conditioner running. I can hear the slightest sound of my computer. These are all very, like, calming, pleasant things for me. Right. So, which is true for a lot of empaths because a lot of noise and stuff can be a little overstimulating. So, hey, Steph. So yeah, just lying down, just being still with my thoughts. And usually it doesn't take more than 20 minutes. And when I get up, I'm totally rejuvenated, right? Yoga is a way that some people like to replenish. Working out, it's not one of my favorites, but I know for a lot of people, like, getting rigorous physical exercise is something that causes them to really like feel renewed and invigorated and replenished. Even this morning, I'll tell you, be honest with you, I was like, God, I kind of feel a little down today. I can't really put my finger on anything, but I'm like, I noticed like some doubts are popping in. I just feel like a little weird. And I texted my friend Terry and she was like, okay, I can't talk right now, but can you go for a walk for 10 minutes? And I was like, oh, that's a great idea. Duh. Like I couldn't think to go for a walk, but I didn't. That's why we have friends, right? So when you're like, I don't know what to do, your friend's like, duh, obvious solution. And you're like, wow, thanks. You're so smart, right? I admit a lot of times I'm that person. Why don't you just do this? Well, duh, hadn't thought of that. That's why you're here. That's why we need each other. Because we get in our own head and we're like, I don't know what to do. I feel kind of down today. We literally need a person to be like, why don't you go for a walk? Well, yes, I'm sure I would have thought of that eventually after I had eaten all of the ice cream in the freezer and run out of toilet paper, right? So I went for a walk and then I was like, oh my God, I feel so much better. Like, can't believe what a difference, right? So again, for me, replenishing is just getting outside and some kind of movement. Stretching feels really good. Deep breathing is another way to replenish. Sometimes reading things that are positive and helpful, like, I got a bunch of books, right? You guys have them. Pretty much everybody in Club Clarity, I feel like, has most of my books. So, but like hearing that again, sometimes I will go back and reread some of my favorite books, right? Or listening to, a guided meditation or a positive book on tape or, visualization or whatever. There's so many ways to replenish. Laughter, right? And none of these are right or wrong. It's really what feels good to you. So how do you know what to do in the moment? I recommend you simply ask, right? If you're feeling, you don't want to wait until you feel, right? To go, you don't want to wait till you run out of toilet paper to be like, damn, did we really not go to the store? Like, it's been a long week. I thought we went. Or did you really just get home from the store and forget to buy toilet paper? Facepalm. Don't wait till you're out. Don't wait till you're using napkins and paper towels and scraps of paper, like tree bark. I don't know what you do, right? But no, when you start to get low, when you're like, oh, the master bath is out of toilet paper, let me go refill it. You go to grab and you're like, oh, wow, we're down to like our last 3 rolls. Right? So when you notice your energy is lower, or when you've just done something that has used up or expended or zapped a fair amount of energy, that's when it's optimal to replenish. In fact, I'd highly recommend some type of system. I'm a fan of systems. I like them. They're efficient. They work for me. They work for my personality. I know some people feel like tied down with systems, whatever. There's reason to not eat anymore. Save the toilet paper. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I don't think I'm going to stop eating anytime soon because I kind of like food. But, like routine replenishment. Okay. So for example, here's an example. Okay. So we use all Melaleuca stuff in my house, right? And so so things like cleaning products and dishwasher detergent, like I don't buy those from the store. I order them online from Melaleuca. So, but we use the dishwasher once, if not twice every day, because we have 5 people in our household, especially during the summer when the kids are like home from school. So we're just going through a lot more dishes, right? So I use like a fair amount of dishwashing detergent. Okay. And so I have made it a routine that every month when I place my Melaleuca order, I put 1 or 2 bottles of dishwashing detergent in my order, right? So I don't think about it. I don't ever run out of dishwashing detergent. It's just like habit. Like I'll just be like, oh, do I need 1 or 2? Oh, I think I need 2. And sometimes I have 5 and then I don't order whatever. And then I'll just order 1 the next month or whatever. But like, I don't ever run out of that. Right? If I was ordering toilet paper online, I can pretty much assure you I'd never run out. But having to go to the store, I understand, is slightly different. My point is just about establishing routines and a habit, right? Like dishwashing detergent is one of those things I never run out of. Laundry detergent is one of those things I never run out of because the Melaleuca stuff lasts forever. And so I buy like a thing of detergent, the little thing of concentrate, like every 3 months or something. But I don't ever run out of it because it's on my list. Like, oh, I need to check and see if we're almost out of this before I place the monthly order. Right. So I have a system in place for that. So you might have a system in place for replenishing. You might do yoga every day or 3 days a week. You might work out in the morning before you start your day. You might do deep breathing. You might do stretching as soon as you wake up. I can tell you it's a habit I'm working on establishing right now is waking up. And as soon as I get out of bed, doing some stretching. I find I can really tell a difference in my body on days when I do that versus days when I don't. Right? So that is a way that I'm like establishing a system of replenishing myself. You know what? I know everybody wants to drink more water, right? And many of us have systems for getting more water. Like I was just talking to Terry Go about this, when she was here during retreat, and she showed me her water bottle. Maybe she sent me a picture. I don't remember, but she was like, I got this water bottle and now I know like exactly how much water, like I know how many of these I got to drink every day to hit my water goal, right? So that's a system that she has for replenishing her hydration. So systems don't always have to be boring. I mean, they're really designed to give us ease, right? And make things easier. So just like you might pick up toilet paper every time you do your Costco run, or every time you do your big grocery run, you might pick up toilet paper. And yes, sometimes you're like, oh, damn, we already had a ton. But it doesn't matter because you know you'll use it. There's like really no such thing as over replenishing. So it's the same thing with your energy. You can put routines and consistencies and systems in place to help you stay on track with that so that you don't ever run out, so that you don't ever bottom out, right? Because here's the thing that I really hope you guys get. There's always curveballs in life, right? And I don't care how psychic you are. Most of the time, you don't see them coming. If you do, you don't even know what it is, right? Like you might get a hint that some news is coming, or some, you might get a hint that like, I think we should hold off on that payment because I feel like we're going to have an unexpected expense or whatever. But you don't know if that unexpected expense is going to be, car repairs or the refrigerator going out or a funeral, So stuff shows up. Life happens, right? Things happen. And if you're not keeping your energy up, what happens if the shit hits the fan when your energy is at a low threshold? You got nothing to draw on. And that's what causes depression, anxiety, and just like, I can't deal, right? Just like I tell you what, if you live in New Orleans, if you're smart and you lived in New Orleans like I did, you don't ever get low on toilet paper, right? Because the minute the minute the weather people are like, there's a hurricane coming, mobs of people flock to the store stocking up on toilet paper. Don't like crowds. Don't like the big box stores. And I especially don't want to be in there when people are mobbing them over toilet paper and water and candles and batteries, right? For flashlights and whatever. And other stuff, I'm sure. But anyway, got to stay entertained during a hurricane. But yeah, no, instead, you just make sure you always have plenty of toilet paper and bottled water. I mean, we did. We always had like gallons of bottled water, and we always had toilet paper, and we always had candles, and we always had flashlights and batteries. So we never had to run to the store. I mean, for crying out loud, hurricane season lasts for like 6 months in New Orleans. It's not like it's a surprise. Like, oh, my, hurricane. I didn't see that coming. Let me go to the store. You could keep this stuff all the time. I'm just saying. So, yeah. So you could see how if that happens, if you let yourself run out of toilet paper, then you're in a frenzy to try or if you get caught, like, there's a power outage or like something happens and you don't have a backup. That's not a good space to be in. So keep your reserves, keep your energy replenished so that when those curveballs happen, you're equipped to deal with them. They can be like a bump in the road instead of a plummeting valley of death, right? Like the lowest point ever is definitely what it can feel like if you don't have the energy to navigate your way through that. All right, cool. Well, that's all I got for today. I'm so glad that you guys enjoyed my toilet paper example. I was definitely accused of having a potty mouth in college, so it's not just about swearing. I like poop jokes. I don't know what to tell you. They're funny. So, yeah, so thanks for being here today. And this replay will be posted for the folks in the Patreon community. And otherwise, I'll see you guys next week. I think next week I have to adjust the time next week. I do, because I have a kid commitment. So I'm doing something with one of my kids at a particular time. So yeah, so I will let you guys know about that time, and we'll see you next week. And in the meantime, we'll stay connected in Club Clarity. Bye guys, have a good day.